So somebody told you that the internet invented content marketing, huh? Well, that's not exactly how it happened. I'm sorry to inform you. I'm going to have to educate you today, I guess. No punches pulled here on 8-Second Rule. This is 8-Second Rule, the podcast about attention-based marketing where we talk about getting, holding on to, and developing the attention of your ideal audience. You've got 8 seconds. What are you going to do with it? I'm Mark R. Morris Jr., the bull rider of copywriting, and if you don't know what that means, look me up on LinkedIn and check out my About section. It's about cowboys and how long they need to stay on top of a bull, and that is a minimum of 8 seconds. 7.99 will not score. It's also about basketball. The 8-second rule, where you get control of the ball after your opponent scores, but you must move it past the half court in 8 seconds or less or lose it. This is similar to marketing, and the small amount of attention any reader, viewer, listener, or visitor will give to your content before you have to make them pay attention. What a fun little phrase, pay attention. In the attention-based economy, aren't we all paying with attention? All right, so today on 8-Second Rule, long before weblogs, now called blogs, were being set up on tripod. Yeah, I'm that many years old. Businesses out in the real world, IRL. I know my kids are cringing when I say this stuff. That's cool. They're using content to promote and market their products and services. It's not a new thing. It didn't get invented with the internet. If I have to guess, it all started even before Gutenberg invented the printing press. You know, I'm sure that there were content marketers before that even. But handwritten flyers aren't going to get you very far in 2020 with the plague going on and all that fun stuff. So let's take a look at a few forms that are still applicable to right now. Does that sound good? Let's do it. Right here on 8-Second Rule, guys. So, you've heard you need a blog, right? I'm sure somebody has told you this, right? Well, back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and I was running around in my little fur cape with my club, dragging a girl by the hair. No, none of that actually happened. But back in the day, the equivalent to a blog was a newspaper column, okay? Sure, I mean, you could make your own newsletter, but there was already this thing being printed every week with lots of ads and sponsors and all that, so you knew somebody was going to try to sell this thing, right? And it had a circulation of thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes millions. And if you could get your story in there with your little picture and your byline, your name in there, dun da da dun, there you go, right? People would read it, and there next to your byline would be Bob's Office Supplies, Bob Knows Business, or something along those lines, right? You could get them to print your opinions. You could get them to print your knowledge. You could establish some expertise. And if you were really good people, bum, 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 you were syndicated. That just meant an agent sold your work to a group of newspapers or a lot of individual newspapers and tried to increase the circulation, okay? It's similar to, we used to have some different blog circuses, things like that, where people would actually share blogs and have a long list of things. There used to be on every blog a list of links to other blogs that you might like as well. And that kind of went the way of the dodo bird at some point. People do still link to each other's work, but not nearly as much as they did in the early days of the internet, because we all needed that promotion. It was before search engines were the giants of commerce that they are today. All right. So, syndication created superstars. Columns like Dear Abby and Paul Harvey's News were read literally all over the world and became businesses in their own right. Well, there's still some huge benefits to having your own column, and they still work in blogging today. Are you ready for this? The number one benefit to writing your own column/blog, you are the expert. Your opinion is the only one that matters. Unless, of course, someone schools you in the comments, but leave that open, because if they do, then you get a chance to show your audience that you could grow and learn and change with the facts and not just be quote unquote right all the time, but actually learn something. The number 2 thing that I feel like you get a chance to share your knowledge. See, newspaper columns were the original social proof of expertise and authority. Doctors still have a similar idea. To this day, they publish articles in peer-reviewed medical journals. Maybe you've heard of this. It's called publishing a paper. It's where studies get published, and that's how we find out things about crap like the coronavirus. Okay, not from some guy who treated 50 people as a chiropractor. That's not where we get that information if we want to be accurate about it. We go back to where the doctors look at each other's work and go, wait a minute, what about this? Because that's science, and sometimes you think you know and you don't know. And that's why it works, okay? That's why the answers keep changing too, folks. So don't feel like that's a conspiracy. This is how it always works. All right, and finally, a column brought name recognition and brand awareness. So that's just like your amazing blog could do for you if you ever got it started, right? Or maybe you did. Maybe you have like 3 posts on there from like 2017. And there's like, 3 sad little views on each of them and no comments. And there's like digital cobwebs in the corners when people do stumble onto it. And then they immediately log out of there because your blog is what the 8-second rule was invented for. Because no one stays there more than 8 seconds. If that's you, listen, I know a guy. I know this really great ghostwriter named Mark R. Morris Jr. who can help you launch your blog properly. DM me. I can coach you or I can do it for you. All right. That's all for the hard sell today. Moving on to the next content type. Hi guys, this is Mark Morris, the copy bull writer from 8 Seconds Rule. And I just want to start off by telling you about Anchor. Anchor.fm. I found this site a couple of years ago, and it is the simplest and easiest way to start a podcast that I know of today. You can do it straight from your smartphone. You don't need anything but their app. It's free. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast. You can even add music, add buffers, all of those things right here on the site. It doesn't cost anything to host it. You can start as many as you want. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it's heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, many more, and you make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, so the next one up is a press release. Now, this is the original tentpole or event marketing tool. Press releases are still very much in use today. People don't use them as much as they should, and the little guys don't think they need to, or there's not a benefit to it. But if you listen to my explanation, I'll tell you everything there is need to know in the next couple of minutes here. Are you ready? A press release is essentially a short article written about a newsworthy event. It gives all the information, the who, what, where, when, why that you were told in 4th grade journalists were supposed to be asking. And then it's submitted to a news service. And newspapers, bloggers, radio news, television can pick it up, polish it up, and then share it as a story to their audience, all right? Now, there's not as many newspapers around today as there used to be, and you probably can't get your press release directed to the AP unless you really do your research and look at how that's done. But here is what you can do. You can submit these digitally for free into different places that take press releases. You can also buy a list of local media outlets in your region. If you run a local or regional business, or the bulk of your business is in that area, or you think it's beneficial for people to know who you are, where you live, that's a great idea for you, because you'll pay maybe $75 or $100 for a list of email names that will get you directly to the right person, because you can look this stuff up and you can take the first email off of, the local television site or whatever, but that may not get you where you need to be, okay? You need to make sure it gets in the right hands, because if it doesn't, they're not going to send it to the department it needs to go to. Nothing's going to happen with it. And then you're going to think that either press releases don't work, or your press release sucks, or some other self-defeating belief, when in actuality, you just didn't know the rules, So you can submit it through one of these services. The better ones you pay for, not necessarily a lot. Sometimes it's more than you want to spend, but there are some that start at about 15 or 20 bucks. And they'll just help spread the word about what you do. So when should you write a press release? All right, not every burned out light bulb and broken shoestring deserves a press release. Not every podcast episode, not every blog post, not every time you have a really good chicken sandwich. Okay, those are times to write Facebook posts or LinkedIn posts or tweet about, but they are not press release items. So here are good times. You ready? Launching a new business, launching a new product, launching a new service, publishing a book, hosting a big event like a conference of some sort, winning an award, getting a patent approved. Okay? Launching a new blog, launching a new podcast. Timely, newsworthy, and interesting. There needs to be a date on this. If it's not timely, it will not become a news story. That's almost guaranteed. No one wants a press release that's boring or menial. Okay, so if it's about micro stuff that matters to you but not to the outside world, write a press release by all means, but just save it. Don't send it out because it'll have the same impact. Okay. Now, although you don't want to tell them about every blog post, if your blog hits 20 million readers, if your podcast gets 20 million listens, that's newsworthy. Although they're probably already talking about you at that point, but go ahead and write the press release anyway. All right? Does that make sense? All right. The third one that I'm going to talk about on this episode was the advertorial. Now, these are still written today, but they're published a little differently in some cases. So an advertorial is a large display ad written like a news article. It's designed to appear as if it's part of the newspaper or the article it's published in, so it's kind of a trick. But it's written with a slant toward promoting a product, a business, a service, event, or idea. A famous example of this that's been talked about in the news recently was Donald Trump's letter to the New York Times about the Central Park Five and how he wanted them executed. And they were found to be completely 100% innocent later. That's neither here nor there. Don't need to get into the politics of it. But what he did was take out a full-page ad in the New York Times and publish a letter. Okay? That's an advertorial. All right? If they're written correctly, they appear fairly neutral, look like they are just another story in the magazine or newspaper, and often people are led to believe that they've read a balanced report that recommends one business over another because you might compare things, all right? You can also do this with case studies and white papers, and that's how it's done a lot today. Then it can be set up as downloadable documents in exchange for signing up to your email list, a Facebook group, or a newsletter, however you want to get a contact with that person that's a little bit more concrete than just having them comment on your social media. So that's an advertorial. All right. The third one that I'm going to talk about on this episode was the advertorial. Now, these are still written today, but they're published a little differently in some cases. So an advertorial is a large display ad written like a news article. It's designed to appear as if it's part of the newspaper or the article it's published in, so it's kind of a trick. But it's written with a slant toward promoting a product, a business, a service, event, or idea. A famous example of this that's been talked about in the news recently was Donald Trump's letter to the New York Times about the Central Park Five and how he wanted them executed. And they were found to be completely 100% innocent later. That's neither here nor there. Don't need to get into the politics of it. But what he did was take out a full-page ad in the New York Times and publish a letter. Okay? That's an advertorial. All right? If they're written correctly, they appear fairly neutral, look like they are just another story in the magazine or newspaper. And often people are led to believe that they've read a balanced report that recommends one business over another because you might compare things. All right. You can also do this with case studies and white papers, and that's how it's done a lot today. Then it can be set up as downloadable documents in exchange for signing up to your email list, a Facebook group, or a newsletter, however you want to get a contact with that person that's a little bit more concrete than just having them comment on your social media. So that's an advertorial. All right, guys. So that's 3 new ways that you can start sharing information. Again, those are a blog, which wasn't that new to you probably. You probably have already heard about it. A press release, or an advertorial, white paper, or case study. All right. So those things can really help you out a lot. And one way that you can spread them around is our free tool for the day. Are you ready? It is a site called Ep14.com. And everything here used to be free. Thanks a lot, Internet. Everything costs now, but that's okay because they still give you what they call applets. They give you 3 of these, 3 recipes that you can share information from for free. And if you want to scale up to their very expensive pro plan, it is exactly $3.99 a month, which is a bargain compared to what this will do. Here's what it will do. It can connect things like your social media posts to a blog, or your blog to your social media, or to a bookmarking site, or to some other article publishing site. Okay, so you could publish one piece, and using IFTTT for $3.99 a month, you can create your own syndication and send that piece soaring out into the internet into dozens and dozens and dozens of places. I highly suggest that you go and take a look at the site. I'm not going to try to describe how it works exactly, but it's pretty plug and play. You pick the pieces you want, you put them together into what's called a recipe or an applet, and then you set it and you forget it. And then the next time that you put up a post on your Facebook, it goes to your blog, it goes to your Twitter, it goes to there, it goes to here, it goes to... It's a great automation tool that costs almost nothing. All right? And that is all I have to say on this episode of 8 Second Rule, guys. You've got 8 seconds. What are you going to do with them?